friends, and welcome to episode 39 of the Creative Cast. I am so glad that you guys are joining me again this week. First of all, I just want to say thank you everyone for the birthday wishes. Truly appreciate it. You guys are just awesome. You certainly know how to make a girl feel amazing on her birthday. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about how to build a strong podcast community or audience. Now, this all kind of started from a strategy session that I was having with one of my newer podcast clients. She's been doing podcasting for a little bit, but she really wanted to grow her community. And so we started discussing some ideas on how to do that. Because I do get this question quite a bit, especially with new clients, especially ones that have been doing this a little while. They don't have a really big community and they want to grow, really make a really strong, tight-knit community for their podcast. Now, of course, we're not going to cover everything in this episode, but we are going to get to some of the main key points that I think that would help you guys grow your community, because we can always grow our communities, right? Now, as a podcaster, you know that your show would literally be just words going out into the internet abyss if it wasn't for your podcast community. I mean, I think it might be my dad and a couple of family members and a couple of really good friends if it wasn't for you guys. So it is because of you that we've even reached episode 39 of the podcast, because originally I was only going to do 12, but I kept getting more questions, and so we've just continued each week. Of course, there is the personal commitment that each of us have to our shows, right? There is all the work that goes into it week by week, whether you were a one-woman show doing the whole thing by yourself, and if you are, kudos to you, because that is amazing. Or you have an editor, or you have a team in place to kind of help you with all the things that go into growing your podcast, growing your community, and just putting out an episode on whatever frequency that you're putting that out on. But it's your audience, your community, that really is the reason that you press record each and every week. Because your podcast needs to be about your community. It needs to be about you making a difference in their lives, whether it's through bringing on guests, through education, awareness, tips, tricks, whatever it may be. Now, I've said before on the show, in order to make an impact with your community or your audience, you need to make sure that they're staying engaged. Whether this means simply asking for a review on Apple or Spotify, because yes, you can do that now, but it's that engagement from them that's really going to get the ball rolling. And we all know how important reviews are, and that's a whole nother episode in and of itself. But another great way to get your listeners engaged is by giving them shout-outs, whether it's on the show, on social media, or just simply encouraging them to become an active, engaged part of your audience or your community. So it is critical that you get your listeners engaged, of course, but it's just as important that you yourself are an active participant in your community. Now, whether you are doing all the social yourself or you have a team member or a social media manager that kind of does that, you still need to be engaging with them. Respond to comments, things of that nature. You want to make it a priority to engage with them and take the time to appreciate each listener for their review, because they've gone out of their way to leave that message for you, to let you know what they think about the show. This may become a little more difficult as your audience grows and you're getting more and more reviews, but it's definitely a good idea for keeping your audience and or your show and your show's content on the right trajectory. Another way to build community is to ask your community what they want on a regular basis, that you are giving them real valuable content that's shareable and advice with each and every episode that you publish. Because, like I said, the show is about them. Yes, you are the host, you are the content creator, you are doing the work, but the show is really about who's out there listening, who's sharing about it, who's talking about it, who's leaving reviews about it. Now, a great way to know whether or not you are on track with this is to give them a survey, asking them what they like, what they don't like, what they would like to know more about, and make sure that you're making it about them and not about you. Now, you can send this survey via email. You could do something on SurveyMonkey. You could do something with Typeform. There's lots of different ways that you can do the survey. Or you can also just do something on Instagram or through Facebook, asking them what they want. Most of the time, your audience is going to tell you exactly what they want and what they're looking for. Now, another way to create audience-focused content is to have them send in their specific questions on the show. You've heard me do it time and time again. Then you could either dedicate a full episode or even part of an episode specifically to answering those questions, because this creates an instant connection with your audience and helps direct you to provide your listeners with content that they're really looking for. A great example of this is my friend Melissa Clark's podcast, Thrive and the Art of Living Free. And Melissa is a Christian counselor based in the Dallas area, and her show is all about mental health. So if you're interested in that, go and take a listen to Melissa. I will put the link in the show notes for you. But the way that she does it is she has listeners either send her an email or send her a DM to get their questions answered on the show, and she answers one question at the end of every show. Because the key to this strategy is to reach out to them first, and then your audience will reach out to you in return, and you can continue to build on that relationship. Another important thing is to provide a platform for which your audience, your community can connect. Like I said, not only connecting with you, but connecting with one another and using it as an opportunity to maybe find their voice and share their thoughts and opinions, suggestions with others. Because having a community platform allows them a space to communicate, as well as find others who are like them, who share similar values, goals, pain points. Fostering an online community gives your audience a place to come together, a place to belong, and know that they are not alone on whatever journey they're on, whatever season of life they're in. They can share their thoughts and opinions about what's important to them. It gives you an opportunity to connect directly with them. And bonus, now you can do this with a Facebook group. You can utilize Mighty Networks. You could have a private Instagram account just for your community, or you can even create a Patreon type of subscription. One of the main things about building a strong community, and this gets kind of to the root of it, is giving your audience, your community, valuable, shareable content. Because when your content is fresh and consistent and audience-focused, that makes it easier for your listeners to be excited about what you are sharing with them. Because remember, the podcast is for them. Because in turn, they're going to get this valuable content, they're going to be excited about it, and then they're going to want to share it with their friends, their families, coworkers, whomever it may be. And most importantly, if the community that you've built has made a difference in their lives, they're going to want to share that with those who may need the same changes, support, positivity, kindness, whatever it may be in their own lives. Sharing valuable content also allows your community to create a buzz that is bound to attract new listeners and make your community a fun place to be. One of my favorite things is it fosters authentic relationships. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this before, about being authentic. Because to really get at the heart of authentic relationships, you have to open up and share a little bit about yourself. Because the element of vulnerability is absolutely priceless in establishing strong connections and bringing a community together. Now, I'm not coming at this from a sales point of view, y'all. Not at all. Because in order to grow that know, like, trust factor, at the heart of all of that is relationship. If the last 2 years have showed me anything, it's we need more community. We need more relationships where we're kind to one another and we're willing to listen. The main part about this is, and this goes for all podcast hosts out there, if you're going to be sharing about yourself on your podcast, is I want you to simply be yourself. You don't have to be Instagram perfect, but you also don't have to share everything under the sun. But what you do share, I want you to be authentic in everything that you do. Show your audience that there is a real person behind the podcast, a person who cares about them. They want to help them reach their goals and see the success that they desire. By responding to listener questions, actively participating in community discussions, showing appreciation is going to establish the strong podcast community. One of the things that you have to do is to engage. And I'm not saying that you have to be in all the places at all times doing all the things, but carve out some time in your day that will allow you to engage, to actually be social on social media. It's one of my favorite things to do every day is to spend some time on social engaging not only on my feed, but on others as well. To get to know the people that are listening. What are their likes, dislikes? What's going on in their life? Is there a way that I can help them? I'm not saying that you have to spend all day on social because God knows that I spend way too much. So I have to limit myself because otherwise nobody's podcast would get edited. And I would have very angry clients. But it is one of my favorite things to do is to engage with each and every one of you. So make sure that you're engaging. Create engaging content, but also engaging directly with your audience, with your community. My final tip today is while an online platform does a great job of breaking down the barriers of creating a quote-unquote conventional community, there's nothing quite like a face-to-face meetup. Now, I know what you're about to say. It's 2022. We live in a crazy pandemic world that really meeting in person is not always an option or a good option. But there's ways that you can do this. So by creating a live, smaller group connection can open up a whole new world of relationships. Now, you could do this via Zoom meetups, going live on Instagram, having conversations, random people on, answering questions, things like that. And if an in-person meetup is an option in your area, then by all means, go ahead and do that. I want y'all to be safe and stay healthy and all that kind of good stuff. I'm not going to preach about all the COVID things or get political because you guys know I don't do that on this podcast. But just a reminder, stay healthy because COVID sucks. Especially if you were a long hauler or you develop a chronic illness thanks to COVID, like me. The main point about all this is you want to give your community the opportunity to get together because it not only strengthens their connection with you, but more importantly, it allows them to build strong relationships with each other, helps them find their tribe, their people, to support them in their own lives. I want to know what you guys think. I want you to either email me, send me a DM on Instagram, leave a comment on Facebook. I want to hear from you. Next week on the show, we haven't had an interview on the Creative Cast in a little bit, so I'm very happy to say that I'm going to be joined by my new friend and fellow Called Creatives member, Kristen Vossler. Now, Kristen is the host of the Rejoicing in Motherhood podcast. If you haven't listened, go take a listen. It's amazing. So we're going to be talking about motherhood, her journey as a podcaster, much, much more. So make sure that you tune in next week for that. You guys know what comes next? Because I don't just give these tips out for you. I also use them myself. I would love if you would rate and review the podcast if you haven't done it already. You can do that on Apple. You can do it on Spotify now. Lots of other podcast platforms have the ability to rate and review. I would appreciate if you guys could do that. Oh, and I almost forgot. Make sure that you keep an eye out in your inbox because I'm working with my team on something very cool coming out in the next week or so. I'm not going to give any more details than that because I don't want to spoil it. And if you're not on my email list, you want to make sure that you go ahead and join. You go to my website, TammyMunsonCreative.com, and go ahead and sign up. Plus, when you sign up, you're also going to receive a little extra bonus as my way of saying thank you. As always, if you have questions, something you would like me to cover on the show, a question you would like me to answer, you can always email me anytime at hello@TammyMunsonCreative.com or feel free to send me a DM on Instagram at Tammy_Munson. And this wouldn't be a show about building podcast community if I don't say thank you. So thank you, ladies, for being part of my podcast community. I appreciate each and every one of you. I continually pray for you and how I can make the show better for you. Because you are the reason why I do this every week. Now, y'all know you're my heroes. You step out in your faith and you share what's in your heart and you take the steps forward to accomplishing your goals. And I think that is just one of the most beautiful things. I believe that the inexperience and the editing fatigue and intimidating tech and all the things shouldn't hold you back from accomplishing your goals. That's why I created the podcast. That's why I continue to do the podcast. I'm here for you each and every day. So let's walk through the journey together so that you can spend less time worrying about all the details and more time spreading your message in God's Word. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next Monday. Bye, y'all.